And our next guest has joined us. So we have Mr. John Cook from Strategic Growth Partners. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
This is our second podcast, John. We're really going for it today. We're trying to get a breakthrough into promoting our company, and I told you a little bit earlier, probably more than you wanted to know.
No, it's good.
But about the SCM family of companies that we have now under one umbrella, and I really admire you, and I wanted to tell you that, and I'm so glad that Ron was able to get some time with you to bring you over here, because I wanted to ask you some questions related to the idea of being able to build this company of businesses and what the advantage is in the strategic growth partnerships that you've started. That's what we're trying to emulate at SCM. Right. And so let's ask some questions on that. Would that be all right?
Do it.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for joining us today. And how long have you been exhibiting at the National 8A Small Business Conference?
So initially 3 years ago was our first with Strategic Growth Advisors.
Okay.
And that's where we met. It was here in New Orleans. It was on the front row. You came by. That's where we started our relationship. And so we had, I was just sharing this story with someone earlier. So we had a 10 by 10 booth that year. First booth, we had a lot of foot traffic, just a really good conference for us. And then last year we had a 10 by 20, and we upgraded a little bit. And this year we had a 20 by 20. But this year what we did was we consolidated and rebranded, if you will, 4 other companies into one, being Strategic Growth Partners. And so the answer to that question was focused on Strategic Growth Advisors, which I was the CEO for. And now we've merged the companies and the rebranding rather versus the merge. And so, but we also had a couple other what were sister companies. And so they've been exhibiting for a few years as well. And one of my partners in this is John Shiraka, very well known in the small business community. And he was the associate administrator for the SBA that ran all these programs. And so he's been exhibiting here for several years, more than 3 that I mentioned. So kind of a long-winded answer, but we've also done similar to what you're putting together in your business model. And so there's a lot of moving parts and components in our system.
That's a great answer too, and that actually leads right into the next question then. So obviously you've changed the way you exhibit now, and you've changed the branding strategies that you use. How much of that do you think happened as a result of this conference?
I don't know that it's necessarily the driver of this conference, but what I would say is that when you're telling a story that's very fragmented, what we've learned is it's very difficult to explain all the moving parts. And then as you grow, what happens is now you have various companies, and this company is a sister company that talks about their service. This company is a sister company that talks about their service. And what we've learned as a result of the trade shows and the marketing events, et cetera, what kind of drove this is it was very confusing to people. It was clear to us, right? Just like maybe you guys in the past, right? It's clear to us that are doing this, but the people can't keep up. They have no clue what's even going on. And so what we found was, as we rebranded, and then we created our 4 strategic business units with probably around 20 divisions rolling up to those 4 SBUs, small business advisory, business development, mergers, acquisition, and back office. And we had a really clear message. Then all of a sudden it became clear to everyone else what the heck we do. And then what ended up happening is now you've got all the divisions. And so think about it. We've all gone through this a million times when we're selling. If we pull up the website, or someone goes to the website and they look at, they retain maybe 20% of what we tell them, right? Then they go back and they do their homework and they look at the website, they just see these few things. Well, now that it's fully consolidated, now they go to the website and they look and they're like, wow, they do all this stuff. They would have never gone to the other websites, but because they weren't properly linked, and it's just, again, confusion. So clear, concise messaging equals, much better results.
That's so good. I hope all the listeners really picked up on that. John just said clear, concise messaging. And I would say that's a golden nugget right now for your business. Could you do what John just did? Could you just provide a clear, concise message just like that? I think that's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the strategic partnerships then. How did you get that idea to branch out like that? What kind of was the driver behind that?
With which part?
Well, with any of the 4 business units.
So this has been a long journey. And so for a lot of people, it looks like, someone stopped by the booth earlier and they were just like, wow, this just happened so quick. You guys have exploded. Well, the reality is, it's kind of like the iceberg effect, right? People don't see the stuff underneath the water. They see the piece at the top and they see immediate success. And as I explained, and I'm not going to go into the great grand details, kind of a long story, but I will say that super high level, one of my partners in this that's out in Silicon Valley, he's been working on a strategic plan and putting this system in place for quite some time. We can point to some various milestones that have occurred.
So we have with us John Cook from Strategic Growth Partners, and was telling a story. We're very sorry for the technical issues. Technical is not my cup of tea, and let's see if we can get that story in before we have a mic problem again. So.
Yeah. Well, basically what we're talking about is growing a business, and growing a business takes many twists and turns. And I've been very fortunate to have a couple partners in this journey and an entire ecosystem of incredible experts. I have in my mind, a small role to play. I help with some of the strategy, some of the growth. And at the end of the day, it takes all the subject matter experts to make this thing work. And fortunately, with a couple of partners that I have, as I mentioned, I spoke about John and Rajesh. These guys have been at this for quite some time, and I have joined the journey with them. And I think what you've seen here, as I talked about the iceberg effect, or what you've seen is it's a culmination of a lot of these things coming together. And if you've read, I think it's From Good to Great,
Yes.
The hedgehog effect.
Right.
That's really when you understand that book and you understand how that works, there's so many good nuggets within that book, and I can tie a lot of those things back to how we built the overall business for Strategic Growth Partners. And so, good group of partners, good group of employees and subject matter experts, and at the end of the day, that's the winning recipe.
So the other part of that book is that, if you recall, is getting the right people on the bus, right? And you mentioned that so many times, and that's another golden nugget for our listeners is as your company grows, be quite concerned with who you bring on board. If you're the kind of person that has got to maintain control, then I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to go very far. But if you can surround yourself with really, really good, capable, qualified experts, then the more likely you are to have a great business experience. And I think that's a lesson from John.
And listen, and that's great. And I'll say this. As a leader, you have to empower your team. Because if you are going to be a micromanagement leader, then I'm just going to tell you, first of all, you're probably going to have health issues, because as you're scaling a business, it's very difficult if you can't let go. And second of all, you've got a lot of really good people on the team. Use them, empower them. Let them be successful. Let them bring their entrepreneurial mindset to the table, because what you're probably going to find is they probably have better ideas than you have. And so, you probably have some great ideas. They probably also have some great ideas. Put it together, now you have success.
Beautiful. Yep. That is so well said. I hope everybody enjoyed that as much as I did and learned as much as I did today. And I really want to thank Mr. John Cook for coming over, spending half your 2 o'clock hour with us, and sharing, just a lot of golden nuggets with us. So that was a real pleasure. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you.